Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, honoring Arbor Day on April 26th, with an ongoing commitment to sustainable stewardship and conservation of Missouri's forests. ChooseWood.com.
From St. Louis Public Radio. This is St. Louis on the Air.
And they put all their energy into that and then die. They're often pollinated by hummingbirds, nectar-feeding bats, or moths, and they produce thousands of seeds that get spread and start a new generation, but the old plant dies.
Well, so this tall spike of a flower is here in St. Louis. I imagine there might not necessarily be hummingbirds around ready to do their business. What are you guys doing to make sure this death is not in vain? I'm Sarah Fensky. The Mexican plant known as Agave pelona only flowers every 20 years or so. And that is a big complication because the plant is critically endangered. While it's in flower, researchers need to do all they can to propagate it. For the Missouri Botanical Garden, that crunch time is now. And joining us now to explain why is Jared Chauncey. He's a senior horticulturalist at the Missouri Botanical Garden. Jared, welcome.
Hello. Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, so Jared, tell us about this agave. What makes it unique?
So, the Agave pelona is a small agave endemic to the Sierra El Viejo range in the Sonoran, Mexico, and that means it only occurs in this small mountain range. And so it only occurs there in a very small population, and so that's one of the things that makes it critically endangered.
Do you have a sense of roughly how many there are of these agaves in the world?
I do not. There are studies and things like IUCN reports, the International Union of the IUCN reports, and they record things. They do studies to try to figure out how many, but some species are better reported than others.
Okay.
So I don't have an exact grasp.
So maybe not great stats on this, but we know how many are here in St. Louis. The Missouri Botanical Garden has 2. How did that come about?
Yeah, so the plant was discovered in the 1960s, and we have 2, one from the Desert Botanical Garden in Phoenix, Arizona, and another from the Sonoran Desert Museum. And so these go back early into the 60s, the 70s, and 80s, where it was early discovered, and we've had our plants since then.
So during the time they've been in St. Louis, this has now been 4 decades or so, have they ever blossomed during that time period?
No, these 2 plants have not. They once they flower, they die. So they don't know. In the wild, it can take them, 20, 30, 40, 50 years to flower. An average might be 20 in a garden or greenhouse setting. It can be faster, but these have been growing in pots for 4 decades, so they have not yet bloomed. And once they do, they'll die.
So they have been taking their good old time to get to this point. This has been a nice, maybe relaxed existence for them, being there in these pots. But they are now reaching the very end of your life. When did you realize, okay, wow, it's been decades, but these guys are starting to bloom?
A little over a month ago, we noticed in the greenhouse that it was flowering. When they were a spiky rosette, and when they flower, they send out a large shoot from the middle. And while the plant is only about a foot tall, this flower spike is now over 6 feet tall.
Wow!
And
So that would be anybody walking by would notice, wow, there's this 6-foot spike coming off of this plant.
Right, exactly.
So
And
what? Go ahead.
I was going to say that they put all their energy at the end of their life to flower, and they put on this large stalk. They use all their energy and put on this large stalk. And this is a small agave, so the stalk gets to 6 feet. Some of the large agaves, which can be a meter or two across, can have a 30 or 40 foot tall flower spike. And they put all their energy into that and then die. And then they're often pollinated by hummingbirds, nectar feeding bats, or moths, and they go high up and they produce thousands of seeds that get spread and start a new generation, but the old plant dies.
Well, so this tall spike of a flower is here in St. Louis. I imagine there might not necessarily be hummingbirds around ready to do their business. What are you guys doing to make sure this death is not in vain?
So we're hand pollinating it. We take the anthers, the pollen, and pollinate it onto the female flower parts, and it will hopefully pollinate, and we will get seed, and then we can use these seeds to grow to keep the genetics of this plant in the collection, and we can grow them out and put them on display in future exhibits, and we can also most likely use them, the other plants we get, to tissue culture and put permanent tissue culture samples in our tissue culture collection, so they can be propagated from quickly that way and kept permanently, because agave has been successfully tissue cultured. So
you're kind of in a frenzy of activity right now.
Yeah, we're right now we just have to pollinate it, but yeah, we're working on pollinating it as the flowers open.
And when will you know if you found success with that pollination?
So it can take a month or two for the fruit to develop and the seed pods to open. They kind of form dehiscent seed pods with shiny black flat seeds.
And so you'll be able to see that in the next couple months. You'll know, okay, we're going to have a new agave pelona.
Right, and there'll be thousands of seed if we were successful.
So this is the crucial time here. How long do you suspect you'll have before this flowering agave then dies?
Usually they often start to slowly decline after they've flowered, and then once as they go through the ripening process, they'll decline further. They take a little longer to die if they actually set seed, but then once setting the seed and everything is done, they'll be pretty on their last leg, and then they'll kind of just peter out.
So are we talking a matter of months here?
Yeah. It'll probably be dead in a few months, shortly after the seed set.
Okay. And we mentioned earlier in the conversation, you have 2 of these particular type of agave. This is just one that's blossoming. You're still waiting for the other one.
Right. The other one hasn't flowered, so it'll probably flower in the next few years because it's even older than the other one.
That one is really taking its good old time.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So this is kind of a big opportunity here. It sounds like you're seizing the day. You're doing what you can to get it pollinated, to get new agaves into the world. But if this doesn't go well, you still have this other one where you'll be able to do this same sort of process with, hopefully, in the next couple of years.
Right, exactly.
So is this a pretty exciting time, sort of all hands on deck as far as the senior horticulturalists?
Well, me at least. I take care of the Mediterranean arid and subtropical collections. So it's mostly me, but for this, further down, we have tissue culture specialists, propagation specialists who will handle other parts of the process. But
well, we appreciate you making the time, even in the middle of everything going on with this plant. This has been interesting to hear about. Jared Chauncey, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And Jared is a senior horticulturalist at the Missouri Botanical Garden. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio. This episode was produced by Jane Mather Glass, with audio engineering and podcast design by Aaron Dorr. Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer. St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here. If you learned something new from today's episode, consider leaving us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the easiest way to help people discover our show. We appreciate it. Thank you. St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri, St. Louis.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, honoring Arbor Day on April 26th, with an ongoing commitment to sustainable stewardship and conservation of Missouri's forests. ChooseWood.com